All right. Since we do have a bunch of people on the line, let's get started. For those of you who don't know me, I am Christina Johansson. I, along with a bunch of these other folks, work really hard within the St. Mary's Young Professionals organization to create a space for young professionals here in St. Mary's County to gather, grow, and give. So we encourage people to gather together socially, to give back to the community, and to grow in their professional development. A lot of that has come about because we are a little bit of a dispersed community. We are a little bit remote. We do have a lot of transplants here, and Jason, I know we'll get into some of this as well. But a lot of the reason for the group is to make St. Mary's County feel like home for people. It is not just a place that you live. It is not just a place that you work. And SMYP, really, our goal is to facilitate that home feeling for all of you here. So without any further ado, I will hand this over to Jason to introduce himself, to introduce Visit St. Mary's, and to tell us a little bit more about what they do, what their mission is, and some of the really interesting things that are going on here in St. Mary's County. So over to you, Jason.
Sure. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much for having me here today virtually, which is a lot of fun. For those of you who haven't met me before, my name is Jason Aul. I'm the Executive Director for Visit St. Mary's, the destination marketing organization for St. Mary's County. Just a bit of my background before I get started. I'm originally from St. Louis. I moved to DC for college back in 2007. Worked previously for Brand USA. They're the nation's destination marketing organization. Their goal is singularly focused on getting international visitors to visit the United States. And now I'm here with St. Mary's County. So I've been in the tourism and hospitality space for about 7 years now. Which is very exciting. I love it. It's one of the industries that is truly a fun industry. You gotta do fun things while helping people have fun. It's a great gig. So what is a destination marketing organization before I get started? For those of you who don't know, a destination marketing organization, or DMO for short, we represent our destination and help develop the destination's long-term travel and tourism strategy. We play a key role in formulating the county's decisions when it comes to travel and tourism. And given that the industry itself touches on virtually every sector of the local economy, we keep very looped in to what's happening in St. Mary's County and the planning for, obviously, inbound visitation and visitor services for people that do come here, whether they be simple visitors and tourists or business visitors as well. So you can think of us as very much a one-stop shop for all things tourism related in St. Mary's County, and in many ways, all things St. Mary's County related. Since its inception, our nonprofit, Visit St. Mary's, has been focused on product development, or in other words, creating robust experiences for tourists to really capture overnight stays and increase repeat visitation. Overnight stays being key here. The funding for Visit St. Mary's hinges entirely on overnight visitation. Our funding comes directly from the accommodations tax in the county. We do not collect any of our funding on taxes from locals. It's all from visitors, those who are staying at our hotels and short-term properties. So it's a great funding model. The better we do, the better our funding is in the future. So it's a great incentive to do a good job for the county. I mentioned we are a private nonprofit. The organization as it exists now has been around for about 2 years. Back in 2015, 2016, the county entered into a decision-making process with a third-party vendor to decide the future of the tourism economy and the future of the tourism and hospitality marketing space for the county. After a 2-year process, they formed what they call the Tourism and Hospitality Master Plan. This was a plan that sort of basically gave a 10-year master plan for how the tourism economy is to evolve and shape itself to capture overnight stays. And one of those ideas was to move the tourism entity that at the time fell under the county's Department of Economic Development into a private nonprofit entity. And that is where I come in. That switch off happened in around June, July of 2018. And since then, we've worked in very close partnership with the county as a private nonprofit organization to do everything in our power to not just create really awesome programming for visitors that come in here, but market the destination like never before. And we're going to continue to do that, obviously, even in times of such as the coronavirus, where things have slowed down. You know, our mission doesn't stop. We are very much focused on driving those future overnight stays. And that's I think that's the really exciting part of what we do is we have the ability to be nimble, to market the various things we have here, whether it be outdoor recreation or wonderful unique restaurants or the museums and attractions, the history we have. It's all very exciting. You know, before I get into sort of a detailed breakdown about what we focus on, I think it's really important to talk about the ongoing crisis that we're seeing now with the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. Some of you may have heard the term the lost decade before. This was a period, 10-year period that followed immediately after the September 11th attacks, in which the tourism economy across the nation took a really deep hit. We're talking obviously dropping air services, people wanting to fly, people wanting to travel. It took about 10 full years to recover. And to put it in perspective, the economic downfall that the tourism industry has seen since COVID-19 is several times greater in magnitude than what we saw since after 9/11. So right now, obviously, no one's willing to travel. No one wants to go in anywhere where there's crowds, where there's groups. But the difference between what's happening now and what happened back after the September 11th attacks is that many people are viewing this as a temporary sort of situation. People still want to travel. People are still planning on traveling. They don't want to travel in large groups, though. They don't want to get on planes. They don't want to get on trains. They don't want to get on buses where there's large crowds to deal with, which makes us, would put us in a really exceptionally exciting position, because we are in many ways a drive market for a lot of the cities that surround the area. We're talking DC, Baltimore, Richmond, and the drive market is going to be the first to recover. Those who are looking for day trips, those who are looking for places to get away to on one tank of gas, those who are looking for quick weekend trips where there's beautiful outdoor spaces, where it's not as crowded, where it's not an urban environment. And that is where destinations like St. Mary's County, like Southern Maryland in general, are going to thrive. So we're really excited that's going to be the first area to recover, because we are well situated to capture so much of that pent up desire to travel. People who have had to change their travel plans for 6 months onwards, and people who are just really, really antsy to get out there and do something. And that's where we're hoping to really shine in the coming months. But when it comes to what we're focused on, obviously I mentioned the Tourism and Hospitality Master Plan, which honed in on about 9 key areas to focus on. That's areas to focus on for product development and marketing opportunities. The first of which obviously would be lodging, given that our funding model hinges entirely on our ability to provide great overnight stays for our guests. Right now, one of our focuses on providing diversified options for travelers, which we've seen some really great opportunities crop up over the past 2 years. Currently, for those of you who are familiar with the old Scheibels property down in South County, that is being renovated into a new property now called Pier 450. They were expected to open by now, but obviously things are a little tough. People are on a holding pattern, but we're really excited about that as a waterfront opportunity. We've assisted with the upcoming reopening and renovation of a small hotel in Leonardtown. And then our biggest project, which is also put on hold for the coronavirus, but once things open back up, we're going to full swing, is looking into the building of a full-service hotel in Leonardtown. This would be a hotel that could comfortably accommodate 150 to 200 rooms with ample meeting space, something in the range of 20,000 square feet of meeting space, banquet space, etc. Now, the difference between a full-service hotel and what you see elsewhere around the county is the hotel would be a one-stop shop for anything you want to do. It would have on-site restaurants and bars and facilities and amenities and everything that you'd expect from a resort. Something that the county doesn't have currently, but would be a fantastic addition, especially in Leonardtown. And with Leonardtown specifically, that was also a huge area of the study that created our organization. And what we're focused on is, given that Leonardtown is the one true town that we have, the one incorporated town, and given that it's incredibly historically significant, it's beautiful, we're focused on creating Leonardtown as the hub for tourists, a place that people can have a sense of belonging, a sense of being, and a jumping off point for the rest of the county. There's obviously a lot of history with the county. There's obviously a lot of things to do around the county, but having a centralized spot, a place to call home, so to speak, whether it be if you're a visitor or a resident, is very important for identifying St. Mary's County as a place to be and a place to visit, work, and live. When attracting overnight visitors, the other areas of the hospitality master plan that were vitally important were, of course, dining and restaurants, having unique restaurants, having diversified restaurant options, whether they be waterfront seafood dining, locally owned, locally operated restaurants, are very important to attracting, keeping overnight visitors, keeping businesses down here as well. So we're really excited to have worked with our restaurant partners, and I think this is a perfect time for me to mention a program that we have launched in coordination and thanks to the St. Mary's County Department of Economic Development. We are calling it the Boost Gift Card Program. During this time in which our restaurants are still unable to open to a full scale where they're only allowed to do delivery and takeout, this program is a value-added program to support our restaurants in a time of need, pump much-needed revenue into their pockets. The idea here is that our participating restaurants for the Boost Gift Card Program will be able to sell $35 gift cards to customers, but they sell them for $25. So the customers will get a $10 added benefit. Each gift card that is sold is then marked to us, and we reimburse the restaurants for that $10 difference. So it's a twofold benefit. Obviously, any of the customers that buy these gift cards will have an extra $10 to spend after they spend 25 bucks. And then the restaurants will see an immediate influx of $35 in revenue. So this is a great way to help keep these restaurants afloat during this time. Obviously, one of the things we don't want to lose is the identity of St. Mary's County. We don't want to lose what makes it unique. The last thing we want is for the restaurants that exist here after COVID-19 to be McDonald's and Arby's and Texas Roadhouse. Not that those aren't tasty at the right time, but they aren't what makes us unique, and they aren't what make us worth visiting. So that's very key to what we're doing. And again, I want to thank St. Mary's County Economic Development for the ability to get this program going. We've seen a really significant response. For those of you who are hungry to support our restaurants, we do have a website where you can see the participating restaurants. It is booststmarys.com. There are about 20 restaurants on right now. You have to contact them directly to buy the gift cards, but it's a fantastic way to support them. And the gift cards do not expire, so you can use them now, or you can wait a year when things are truly back to normal and support them then. So tell your friends, tell your family. It's a great way to support our folks. Another area of key focus is South County. South County used to be a tourism mecca. Back in the 40s and 50s, it was the hotspot for visitors in DC and Baltimore. We do not expect, nor do we really want it to get back to that level, but we want it to get back to it in miniature. We're trying to work on various regulatory hurdles that have prevented larger events or more events such as weddings or family reunions or corporate retreats down to these areas that are simply inaccessible in the DC, Baltimore, urban areas. These are places that really can make a place like St. Mary's County shine. Waterfront, beautiful waterfront access, fishing and hunting and outdoor recreation, something that obviously you get in droves throughout Maryland, but is truly unique with the historical component we have down in St. Mary's County, being the first landing, being the first capital, being an area of so many firsts, and an area of so many delicious firsts at that, with our wonderful seafood economy and oyster scene here. The other area is the hospitality master plan of focused on, of course, were our museum and historic sites, agritourism, which I sort of tied into, but we obviously have a lot of farms, a lot of really great agritourism opportunities, whether it be farm to table or visiting farmers markets or doing on-farm experiences, or even oftentimes not considered agritourism are beverage distributors and suppliers and manufacturers. So your Port of Leonardtown Winery, your tobacco bar distillery, those guys, and those are key of driving tourists down here as well. We're excited to have been working with them. And the last of which that we're focused on is, of course, events. One of the biggest driver for tourists in this area are events. And what we've been working on is helping transform previously single-day events into large multi-day events. And I see Andrew Ponte is with us. He, with the Jazz Festival as an example, last year, that was the first year that the event was truly a 3-day event than a 1-day event. We saw many wonderful accolades from that event. Lots of great, great visitation numbers last year during that time. Leonardtown was deeply involved in it. It's about taking something that's already been great and making it even better to attract people for overnight stays and for weekend stays. We're giving them additional things to do. And Andrew and his team were just phenomenal last year, and would have been so this year had coronavirus not been an issue. So major thanks to them for everything as well. Since I keep mentioning coronavirus, I think it's important to talk about marketing in this new environment, because what we are marketers at our core. And marketing right now, advertising right now, in the era of don't do anything, don't go anywhere, is a little difficult. It's difficult because we want people to come, we want people to spend their money, we want them to support our businesses. We know that it's really tough right now, but at the same time, we need to be very cognizant that the right thing to do, the safe thing to do, is make sure that the virus is stopped in its tracks before we welcome people back in droves. So our focus right now is wholly digital in our marketing. It's wholly focused on future planning and reminding people that we're here. And the other aspect, of course, is that Boost gift card program and similar things we have coming up, where we can get the locals to support the local tourism economy far more than we ever had in the past. So much what we do is outside looking in. We are looking for inbound visitors. We don't, and this is true for most DMOs across the country, is that obviously you want those visitors. But now a lot of DMOs in St. Mary's County specifically are looking inwards for that support. We are finding that we have a lot of great support here for our restaurants. We have a lot of people looking for things to do within the county. They don't want to go far. They don't want to, have to worry about traveling outside the county to do things. So we're happy to keep that focus locally, which has been really exciting to work with our partners on. But speaking of the all digital focus that we have, we are soon to be launching our brand new website. Visit stmarysmd.com, which that's been the website for years and years and years. We have a complete redevelopment coming online on Tuesday, May 26th. So that's been a long process. We've had a lot of great input from our stakeholders on our new branding design, our new website design, and we're really excited about it. We are also, as part of this, launching a virtual discovery tour. It's an interactive series of web videos on a map, basically, that'll be connected to our website, where people can quickly look at the things to do and plan a trip. Basically, do a virtual tour of the county without having to visit it first, which right now is exactly what we need. It's exactly what we need to keep the interest up, and it's exactly what we need to keep people from going stir crazy. So we're really excited for that. We have something like 50 plus videos going to be on this thing from all different businesses, outdoor sites, museums, etc., with more that we'll be adding on throughout the year. So we're incredibly excited. And before I sort of open it up for questions and discussions from my end, how can you guys get involved? Well, you all are local, and the best thing that locals can do is just spread the word of mouth on the things that are going on is incredibly important. One of the things I constantly hear from people who have lived here, or people who shared from others that live here, is that there's quote unquote not much to do, that that it's not an exciting place, and that is wrong. And a lot of people who live in an area don't tend to look at the tourism website as a place to get ideas of things to do to stay local, and to events to do locally. So we encourage you to share our website, to if you see an event or something that looks exciting, share it on social media. Word of mouth is enough to get people to see what's going on around here, and that's what I can ask for right now, obviously. With everything that's going on, is spread the good word of St. Mary's County, and programs we have, such as the Boost gift card program, and the new website we have coming on. And community involvement is key here. So I'm very happy to be talking to all of you here about that, and happy to answer any questions anyone has.
Jason, I think in the summary of all of what you've talked about, you've answered all of the questions I had pre-prepared for you. So I appreciate that. So I'm pretty much going to wing it at this point.
Sure.
So you touched on COVID, which I think that was something that I was really interested in understanding how you all were managing with that. And I'm really thrilled to hear that you guys are doing these virtual tours. I know that has been a saving grace for some of the museums down here. I've seen that on a lot of people's feeds. Historic St. Mary's, I've seen some of theirs. And that has been really great. So in normal times though, outside of the, hey, there's nothing to do, what is the biggest challenge that you have to overcome for not just overnight visitors, but for local visitors too?
Sure. So the challenge for overnight visitors, it's a perception issue. People think of Southern Maryland. Well, they don't think of Southern Maryland, I think, and that's part of the problem. Is a lot of people in DC in particular, and Richmond in particular, when you say Southern Maryland, they're like, well, there's a Southern Maryland, there's a Western Shore. That's one of the biggest hurdles. And when people understand that we're multi-destination, St. Mary's County, Calvert County, Charles County, they make up the region, they get a little bit more intrigued when they hear about the fact that we are the first landing in Maryland and the first capital, and that we have this amazing Navy Air Base with an incredibly detailed and really cool attached museum. They get really intrigued when they hear that we have an oyster festival, because our history with oysters is incredible, that we have a competition, a shucking competition, that sends the winners to Galway for the international competition. That's something that really piques people's interest. And I think it's these individual stories of intrigue that really capture the minds of not just visitors, but locals as well. It's amazing what you miss in your own backyard when you're not looking. And I think those individual stories are what's important, of not just driving overnight visitors, but also keeping locals engaged and keeping them doing things here in the county.
Yeah, so that brings up a really good point, right? And I will fully admit this. So I've been down in St. Mary's for a little over 6 years, I think, at this point. And I grew up just outside of Baltimore and had no idea. I had never been down here in years of my life. And so you bring up a really good point about interfacing with not just our Tri-County area, which I'm sure that you do, because it's that integration is really important. But how do you engage with like the folks in DC to spread the word about St. Mary's, or how do you engage with people in Baltimore, or the bigger hubs that are within that easy driving distance for a day trip?
Yeah, so there's two ways. We have the business side of things and the consumer side of things, and we're in order to engage those areas. On the business side of things, which I'll get into a little deeper in a second, it's focused on working with national associations such as the American Bus Association, U.S. Travel Association, attending their various business-to-business trade shows, in which we effectively go and sell St. Mary's County as a destination for group tour providers, group travel providers, and the like. That helps really spread the word and increase the profile of Southern Maryland in general. We do that in very close partnership with with Calvert County and Charles County as well. Most of those shows we actually go to collaboratively, which is excellent because one of the things that a lot of people like saying, and it's very true, a rising tide lifts all boats, and that if someone's coming down to Calvert or Charles or St. Mary's, the likelihood of visiting one of the other counties increases tremendously. In fact, it's almost a guarantee, given that you have to drive through one of those counties to get to us. So that's a positive there as well. On the consumer side, reminding people that we're here really hinges on how we market. I'll give you an example. We are working with Fox 45 in Baltimore on a campaign that they're doing over the summer, basically where you can get to on one tank of gas and back again. And one of the destinations they want to feature is St. Mary's County. And I think that's it as well. That is engaging people that we are close and accessible and in your own backyard, but not terribly far, where you can get a unique experience that is unlike any you can get in your hometown. And I think that is where we shine. That is where we can help change that perception and where we can help capture the interest of people in the broader Mid-Atlantic area and beyond.
So in talking about growth then, what is your bigger, I don't want to say like your master plan, right? It makes it seem like very like takeover-y, but yes, we want to bring people down here. Yes, we want to expose people to the real goodness that is St. Mary's County, our rich history, all the really cool things that we have down here. But I think there's the second piece that we don't talk about as much, but in 20 years, what do you want St. Mary's County to look like?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Ultimately, I don't want the identity of St. Mary's County to change. What makes St. Mary's County unique and a great place to live, work, and visit should always be that way. You take away that identity, it takes away what makes it worth being here. So ultimately, we need to focus on that. Is that what we are? Is something that needs to be true in our marketing and true in the way we conduct our business. But in the way I see it in 20 years is we have that we are an established destination. When people think of, oh, let's go away for a weekend, they think of St. Mary's County. When they think of, oh, let's go sailing, let's go fishing, if you're in the Mid-Atlantic region, St. Mary's County is one of the top four places that you want to think of. When people say, let's go somewhere, they won't think of Ocean City or Virginia Beach or the Outer Banks. They'll think of St. Mary's County first. And that is where I'd like to see us in 20 years.
No, I like that, and I agree with that as well. Something that I wanted to do, because we tend to, and by we, I mean I, tend to overwhelm this with a lot of my own talking. What I would like to do is while Jason and I are having this discussion, while you guys are thinking about questions that we'll open it up to in a couple of minutes, but while we're doing that, could you guys in the chat feature send us a note of what you think the St. Mary's County identity is? And then can you give us your favorite local restaurant? What I would really like to do is, once we put this recording out there, I'd really like to showcase some of those restaurants. And I think this is a good opportunity for Jason to hear, from maybe some new people who haven't been as involved in some of the countywide strategy discussions about what you think St. Mary's County is. And I would really encourage each of you after this, and for anybody that's watching this afterwards, I would really, really encourage you to never, ever say there is nothing to do here. I know I struggled with that the first 2 years I moved here. I had no idea, because it is such a word of mouth community, right? And that's the whole point of what we're talking about, is get the word out, get the word out. If you're not in the right pockets, you don't get the word. So when you hear new people come in and wonder what there is to do, when you have new people at work, when you bring friends down here, when you talk about where you live, it is so important to make sure that you understand what there is that's going on, and that you encourage other people to really like it. There are things I don't love, but there are things I wouldn't love living in DC or living in San Francisco or whatever, right? but we do have this fantastic identity here, and some really cool, unique events that Jason was talking about, right? So I would really highly encourage you to make sure that you know what your local resources are, and I'll post some of those too. But know what those are and really encourage people to stop saying that there's nothing to do here. It makes me cringe every single time, because sometimes I think it's the cool thing to say when you're trying to bond with new people, about the, the ruralness or the things that you don't understand that are actually really good qualities to have down here. So I get that there's a little bit of that bonding over the newness, but really do try to avoid those things and try to really encourage people to look at that uniqueness and the things that make St. Mary's. So I will get off my soapbox, but hopefully that helps you guys. I see we have a couple of chats. This is very exciting. So I really would like to open this up to some other folks. Like I said, I had a bunch of questions and Jason answered them all. So do you all have any questions for Jason about maybe, new things coming up or new events, or any hands?
Hey, Jason.
Hey.
Any plans on any music venues sometime in the future?
Music venues. Strictly speaking, like, is an exclusive music venue? No, but there are some facilities that may be getting off the ground that could support small music venues. I think a couple hundred people.
Okay.
One of the conversations I actually had, wow, it's kind of been a year or so ago. There is and I'm blanking on the name, I apologize. It is a private indoor sport facility with a single full-scale soccer multi-use field that's open in the Lexington Park area. And one of the things, because it has a bar restaurant built in, and one of the things they've talked about is hosting small concerts in that facility. So that's sort of where our focus is, not music venue specific, but places that could be multi-purpose, multi-use, that could do stuff like that.
Cool.
I think that was a great question, Lindsay, and it's something that comes up all the time, actually.
We have a huge music scene, but there aren't that many big places to play. Like, there are a lot of musicians down here.
One of the, I don't want to, the chances of this happening in the next few years, unfortunately, are a little slim. But with that, the big restaurant, big hotel in Leonardtown I mentioned, the town had plans of Leonardtown way back when to build an outdoor theater, an outdoor amphitheater of sorts. And if this project gets off the ground, there is a very good chance that one will too.
No, that would be great.
Again, fingers crossed, obviously.
So something we haven't talked about, and it's a little bit off to the side, and maybe it's a more local thing and less of a tourism thing. But I have noticed that there are a lot of really interesting single-sourced like fitness organizations coming up here. So you have SALT, a cycling studio, you've got a bar studio, you've got all of these really interesting like little niche fitness organizations. And some of them have done like wellness retreats and things like that. Are you involved with any of those as they kind of kludge together and make their own smaller community here?
I haven't been as involved with the programming they've had. What we focused on a lot is when people come down here, they're looking for certain amenities that also remind them of home, so they don't have to go back. So they look for someone coming down here. Oh, I missed my workout class. I can go to a studio, a cycling studio, or a yoga class, and that's sort of where our focus is on right now. But we haven't been as involved with their programming.
Okay. Yeah. No. It's just one of those things where I think that that could be a great draw, especially with as you look. Sorry, I'm trying to look at the chat too to see what people are really interested in. So as you look, and everybody is obsessed with the water and the ability that we have to get out on the water and be by the water. A lot of our classes are SEP classes. A lot of them are taking advantage of the natural resources that we have and bringing fitness with them too. So I really I think that that's been something that's been particularly unique about us, and the fact that a lot of our groups really, really come together. So what else do I have for you? So we've kind of talked about, the best parts of St. Mary's, right? And the uniqueness and the identity. And I like everybody's answers here. So we've got kind of the focus on that rural waterfront. So as we look to grow and expand, I know we don't want to lose that rural, that identity of St. Mary's County. So are you involved in any of the efforts to keep waterfront areas less developed, or how do you interface with kind of the development and infrastructure piece of St. Mary's County?
Yeah.
Does that question make sense?
Yeah. So we obviously work very closely with the county government and the various agencies that manage, basically everything. Well, one of our focuses and one of the goals of that master plan is, of course, waterfront and waterfront access. What we want first and foremost is increased public access to a lot of the waterfront areas. We have, what is it, over 500 miles of shoreline, or only a small percentage of it is publicly accessible, whether by boat or kayak or otherwise. And we're looking to improve existing water access points and increase new ones. When it comes to the identity issue, I think on the short term, our short-term goals are really increasing public access to all the various amenities we have. We know that'll take a little bit of time. We have a couple of years before there's going to be any major changes to, I guess, the identity, even if we're to go full steam on opening some of those points up. So it's not really a point of issue, because I think there isn't obviously a will at the county level, local level to change who we are, and I think there'll be, that'll stay that way for some time. We're not gonna see any major shifts in our identity because of what we're doing.
Okay, yeah. So Matt actually has a really good question. It's one that I've had and totally forgot to write down, but there's always this start and stop progress on the Leonardtown Wharf and developing things there. So what is the plan for that? What's the status of the development for that?
So obviously the long-term plan is to connect that entire waterfront area to Port of Leonardtown Winery in the form of a boardwalk, and that is something that the town is actively working towards. So you'd be able to walk along the waterfront from the Leonardtown Wharf all the way up to Port of Leonardtown, basically the same water trail you'd kayak it to, which is excellent. When it comes to further waterfront development, something that I don't know if the town necessarily wants me to share it, so keep it within the group, is that they are so Leonardtown used to be a major steamboat stop for steamboats along the Potomac and the Patuxent and throughout coming in through the around the Chesapeake area. And something that the town is looking into is bringing a old steamboat down to Leonardtown and making it more of a permanent structure in form of a restaurant or event venue or something that'll really bring a certain level of vibrancy to the waterfront area. We'll bring additional things to do and see, which is exciting, because not only is it obviously very historic, but it's a really cool thing too, to be able to jump on a steamboat and have a meal or do something fun. That's not an experience you can get in many places. So I think that's a really big development aspect of the Leonardtown waterfront that is very exciting, that I'm happy to have been part of. But again, nothing's set in stone yet. I am happy to report that the town is looking into different grant opportunities for that. The good thing is that it is an area of historic significance and of heritage. So there are a lot of great opportunities with state and national organizations to support that endeavor.
That's really great to hear, especially because it's one of those did you know kind of things, right? So I have that written down, is that there are a lot of things that I have learned from all of these sessions. A couple of new things I've learned from you today, Jason. and I've lived here a while, right? So there are a bunch of really cool like trivia facts about St. Mary's, and I don't know if you guys have ever thought about doing just like a real quick half a phrase, right? Of a, hey, did you know? You know, I don't know, pick a random fact, right? But something that's a little bit different. That's not like a quantifiable thing, right?
Right. Well, here's a fun, hey, did you know fact that I'm sure many of you knew. That the Budweiser bottling plant in Texas produces a 10-ounce Budweiser can that is sold in one place and one place only, St. Mary's County. So that's a fun did you know fact, and those are the little things that I love. Those are the stories that get people excited and interested, not just people that live here, but people who are looking for something to do.
Well, and that's one of those random things where you hear it and there are like jokes about it, and you're like, what? Like if you don't know the backstory, you're like,
right.
What are you people talking about, right? So it's things like that where like I really like that, and it would be really fun. I would like to, maybe we can work together from an SMYP tourism perspective to kind of get one of those fun things out in each of our newsletters. I know Mary works with you, Jason.
Yeah.
So that would maybe be something really fun to be able to release to the folks.
Right.
At least they come out on our newsletter to something fun. So we have a question from Matt of, I guess the music venue is very popular today, Jason. So what would be required to get something like that off the ground from an outdoor music venue perspective?
That's a great question. It's one of those things that for it to happen hinges on other things to happen first. And so right now there's not too much that can be done other than, I guess, keeping the interest up there. If the town knows that there's interest in it, they'll continue pursuing it. And I think oftentimes, obviously, the town, as it should be, is focused on its own residents, but they obviously require a lot of the rest of the county for support in terms of supporting local businesses and things to do. And while there's only a few thousand people that live in Leonardtown proper, there are 130,000 plus people in the St. Mary's County, and even more so in the region, that are looking for those things to do. So if the interest is there, if the town is aware of interest of those things to do, they'll continue pursuing it. And because it's in a historic area, there are grant opportunities for the town to pursue it with less of a cost to the town itself, with assistance from various organizations. So that's something that we could certainly use the help with. I mean that's the one thing I could say right now is the more people voice their support for those type of amenities, the more likely it is to happen. If there is if the desire is there, then it's something they can see as a revenue generator in the future.
So what is your best suggestion for people who are interested in getting more involved? I mean, that's what we're talking about, right? Is, okay, so we can give you our opinions and our wants and desires all day.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily make it into the master plan. That doesn't necessarily help us to engage and be a part of creating this vision of St. Mary's County in 20 years, right?
Right. So what a lot of, when it comes to tourism, what many people don't understand is that our customers are not the visitors. Our customers are the residents. We ultimately are an economic development organization. We inherently support locals. That is our goal. Nothing we do is done without the consideration of what could work best for the county, what brings in the most revenue and the most support. So I think that's important to understand first, is that what a lot of our elected officials don't understand, what a lot of locals don't understand, is that you guys are the customers, first and foremost. So in order to get, to help get involved, one of the things I would do, and especially when it comes to a project like that, is, it doesn't hurt to send a note to a county commissioner or someone who was on the Leonardtown Council or something, saying, hey, we heard about this great upcoming opportunity, love to support it. If they hear that there's a lot of support from the community, they're more likely to support those endeavors in the future. And I think that's very important, because it's so hard for a lot of elected officials especially to look at tourism and see it as an inherent economic driver. And that's because what we do is inherently fun. What we do is to give people a great time, and it sort of comes off as more fluffy and not worth the money, because what is it doing for the economy? And what's it doing is a lot. Tourism touches on so much of the local economy. It's not just the hotels and restaurants. It's every penny and dollar that a customer spends in the county, whether it be at a local mom and pop shop, a gas station, a convenience store, the utilities they use. It's everything. And to show that there's that how important that is really the crucial first step here. And the more people we get voicing that support, the better.
Great. No, thanks, Jason. I appreciate it. And I'm sorry, Connor, I didn't mean to ignore your question. It just got kind of filtered in with everybody else's. So Connor had a question about how higher education fits into your tourism master plan.
Sure. It fits in a few ways. Well, when it comes to, I'll touch on one thing first. We have, with St. Mary's College, wonderful facilities down there that we can utilize for our tourism efforts, particularly when it comes to sports and sports sales. Higher ed can really be involved in that sense when it comes to St. Mary's College, because we are looking to bring tournaments down here, whether they be sports related or otherwise. When it comes to higher ed being involved, generally speaking, in tourism, obviously we have a great asset with St. Mary's College and the College of Southern Maryland, and getting people to understand when they come down here for school that they can go beyond campus to do stuff, that the campus is many ways just one of many things to do down here. We've actually worked very closely with the College of Southern Maryland on a program on front of line training for staff at various hotels and restaurants and tourism attractions. The idea here is visitor services training to get front of line staff who are used to serving a more business crowd, the base crowd, to understand the needs and the wants of a visitor when they come down here, a traveler. And I think their involvement has been exceptional, and the programming that the College of Southern Maryland has provided for us has been exceptional. We know the first run of the training program was very well received. Their connection to tourism obviously is vitally important here. We also have the higher ed, the tech center, that's a bit of ways from Leonardtown. That's important too. It's a wonderful facility that's hosted a number of events, and I think that's also where higher ed can be involved as well. We look beyond the basics to host different types of events and different types of opportunities, things that you might not think of, whether it be like a model airplane club that comes down here for an event or something similar. There's so many unique different things that those people can be involved with.
Did that answer your question, Connor and Matt? Okay, great. No, I have really enjoyed this discussion, and it's all things that are near and dear to my heart, right? As a transplant here, and as someone who has been here more than the 2 years that I had expected. So what do you really want people to know, Jason? What do you want the young professionals in St. Mary's County to know? Like the big takeaway.
The big takeaway is that there is stuff to do here. We have a great variety of restaurants and bars, a burgeoning event scene. There's so many events that happen on a regular basis that people aren't aware of, and it goes beyond just the big events, the Oyster Festival and Jazz Festival and the like. We have such a variety of community events that give people so much to do, whether they be group yoga classes or board game tournaments that happen at locally owned shops, or cooking demonstrations, you name it. There are tons of things to do down here. If you're an outdoor junkie, my God, we have hundreds of miles of trails throughout the county. If you're a history junkie, I mean, have you really dived deep into the collections that are available at Piney Point or St. Clements Island or PAX Navy, the River Base Museum there? And there's so much to do and see, and there's so much to get your hands on. That's the biggest takeaway is, spread the word that there is stuff to do here. You just only got to look in your own backyard.
I really appreciate that, Jason, and everything that you have brought to the county. I see it. I see a marked difference the last couple of years in how we market ourselves, how we brand ourselves, and so I am very appreciative of that. I learn new things all the time. I love. I actually go to the website pretty frequently
Oh, good.
to make sure
Glad
that
to hear it.
something, which I would never, honestly, I would never have thought to go as a resident to our tourism website. I don't know why that connection would be missing for me, but it's something now that I really appreciate that's there, because you don't know what you don't know. And because again, like we've spoken about, right, the community is so word of mouth that trying to be involved in all of the things so you know what's going on is really challenging. If there are any other questions, please pipe up. Otherwise, I know, Jason, you're always available, and Mary
Yes.
is on our board, so she also is more than capable of answering your questions too.
Very, very much so. Mary's been absolutely wonderful, a great part of our team. So major thanks to her as well.
I would love to continue working with you, Jason, on making sure that our young professionals community has access to the events that are coming up, to the improvements that are going on, to any of the other really interesting things that you guys have featured. So I'll make sure that, Mary and Mary gets all of that in our newsletter. If anybody is interested in being added to our newsletter list, please feel free to either send me a note, send the SMYP Facebook page a note. We'll get you hooked up with that newsletter.
Yeah, and I just put my email and mobile in the chat as well for anyone who wants to connect directly with me. I love new ideas. One of the good things about this industry is there's almost no such thing as a bad idea, and you don't. What you said, you don't know what you don't know, and the locals know best. So happy to chat with anybody about anything either I mentioned or didn't mention.
Great. Well, Jason, thank you again for your time and for all of your insight and your energy today. I appreciate it. I know everybody else on the call appreciates it as well. We do have every Wednesday, this is a thing now. So every Wednesday from 8 to 9, feel free to tune in. We post the URL for registration up on our Facebook page. If you need help with that, or if you can't get access to it, let me know.
Sure. Appreciate it.
So Connor, not to put you on the spot, but could you at least just give folks a rundown of the next 2 or 3 weeks of who our Wednesday morning Rise and Grind participants are?
Certainly. Let's see. Next week will be the Charles County United Way with Mike Bellis. We'll be talking about volunteerism and community engagement. And then on the 3rd, we will have Ellen Lewis of the Leonardtown Business Association.
Awesome. And that should dovetail really well with what Jason was talking about, and maybe more on like a very tactical short-term perspective. So I hope you all decide to join in for our next sessions. And as always, I appreciate our veteran attendees tuning in. Have a wonderful rest of the day and a great rest of the week, everybody.
Thank you, everybody, so
Thanks,
much.
everyone.